almost at the end of day one of the Maker Summit. Hope you've had a great time. Before we proceed to our next session, please make sure that your phones are silent, you're taking notes, and more importantly, networking with us. 2 years ago, you and I might have not even heard the terms like Kirana tech or retail tech, but 2020 was all about them. It was an eye opening year, highlighting the need for tech in the retail lifeline of India. The opportunity is undoubtedly huge, but building for small businesses is altogether a different ballgame. The market is different, the requirements are different, and the crowd is completely new. Today, we have with us four folks who have been there and done that. They will share their playbook on building for Indian SMBs, and this is definitely something you cannot miss out on. The four panelists are going to talk about it all and help innovators understand the Indian SMB market and what they actually need. So today we have with us Sumit Shah of Dukan, Manish Patel of MSwipe, Mabel Chaco of Open, and PayU's former business head, Namit Kaur. The session will be moderated by Ashish Tulsian of POSIT. So over to you, Ashish.
Thank you, Kriti. Welcome all to the Maker Summit, and welcome Sumit, Manish, Mabel, and Amit. Thanks for doing this. Our topic today is product strategy roadmap for Indian digital SMBs, the new Indian digital customers in B2B space. Before we proceed, for the benefit of everyone who's watching, would like to request each of you to introduce yourself. But see, we already know what you guys do, but we would like to know from you who exactly is your target customer, who you define as the target customer you're building the products for, and then we will start. So we'll go with you, Sumit.
Perfect. So hey, we are building for people who are like starting their e-commerce store for the first time. So there are different kinds of people. So right from like the small kirana store to like some big enterprise, it's for like everyone.
Great, Manish.
Hi, I'm the founder and CEO of MSwipe. We're basically a company that provides payment and lending services to SMEs in the country. That's our primary focus.
Okay, Mabel.
Hi, I'm the founder of Open. We are a neobanking platform focused on small and medium businesses.
Okay. Namit, we can't hear you. Namit, I think you need to figure your mic out. Guys, thank you. And for the benefit of everybody else, I'm Ashish Tulsian. I'm one of the founders at a company called POSIT. We are a restaurant tech company, and we have seen our journey from building for SMB restaurants, standalone restaurants in India, to mid-market in India, to large enterprise, at mid-market and large enterprise globally, as of today. So in the last 9 years of our journey, I've kind of lived through, different kind of customer segments. So my first question will be, hey, so when we are talking about product strategy, I think one thing which I always wonder as a founder, and whenever I'm asked this question, I'm never able to fully answer that. I would want to also understand how you guys look at it. What is the art? Is this the art or the science behind the product roadmap? We know that the founders are the ones who bring in the DNA to the product, and in much more scaled companies, product managers and the product leads kind of take over. But is it the science which is leading the product development in for each of you? And I'm asking this question specifically for India because when we say that there is a product strategy or a roadmap for India, what is that art beyond science of the product which you guys believe is driving it? Sumit.
So I think it's more dynamic, right? Like, cause especially for like people who are like starting to use internet for the first time for the transaction purpose, right? So once you start getting like more and more users, then you suddenly realize, okay, like certain percentage of users are like facing these kind of issues, like another set of people are like facing another kind of issues, like right from like what kind of language you have provided within the app, and like how the whole UX is structured and everything. For instance, like if I talk about Dukan, like we were building for like people who already own the store, right? But then we suddenly realized is like a lot of people who are like trying to start new businesses, right? Like even they are like trying to use Dukan. Like few of the people, they were expecting like there is like some sort of like reselling model where like they have to like sell somebody else's product. So it's more dynamic based on like what kind of like problem you are like going after, and like things like that.
No, so Sumit, are you saying that so where is that product roadmap, coming from? Is it something which is being done while you're on the way, or is there a roadmap, or how much of that roadmap you built first, followed, and of course it's agile, I understand, but how much
It's
of that is still something which is fixed on a day-to-day basis?
So the basic framework it's still remains the same, and like everything is like on the runtime, right? Like if we launch a basic platform where just like we are allowing people to list their product, then we suddenly realize is like like a lot of people have started asking for online payments feature. Now that whole integrating the payment stack on your like app itself is like different thing altogether. So everything happens in the runtime. Like once you realize it's like like a lot of people have started asking for this thing, or like a lot of people are facing this problem. So yeah, it's like more dynamic in our case.
So is it safe to say that it is still the founder driven product roadmap, or is it I mean, how does a product team doing when it comes to such a dynamic?
To be honest, like I don't have a team. We are just like two people who are like just like handling the product. So yeah, it's still the founder driven.
And do you believe that it is going to go like that for a long time, or do you believe that eventually it should become a science and go in the hands of a larger product team?
So the way we are thinking is, like we just focus on the basic ordering system, and like let other people build like whatever add-ons that they want to build. Like for instance, like we built the whole ordering system. Now most of the sellers who are like ready to use platforms like Dunzo. So we want like Dunzo to like come and like launch their own plugin and like start catering to our users. So like the focus is same again, like just solve the basic e-commerce and like let other people build all the plugins and extensions who can which can like extend the functionality of the platform. So that's the approach we are taking.
Right. Manish, you want to take a shot at it?
Sure. I mean, product for us has always been, in the early days, founder driven. We now have a team that assists me, and it's a significantly large team and very, very qualified team and experienced team. But product for us at MSwipe is always the following. It has to solve a problem. It has to be simple for our audience to understand and use. And has to be localized from an India context, which means regional languages and regional content, and it has to meet a certain cost paradigm, right? So without that, I don't think products in India can succeed, especially in the markets that we're in. Yeah.
Manish, if I ask you that on that point, is cost as a part of, because you made it like, I mean, if because that is an important part of the product delivery, is cost the larger India strategy for a business like you?
I mean, cost is the only India strategy, right? I mean, you show me another strategy, Ashish. Take Reliance Jio, you take Facebook, you take anything, right? Let's talk about UPI, right? All of this is cost driven, right? India, bottom end of the pyramid and the middle end of the pyramid is all about cost efficiencies. And,
so Manish, bringing that to the product, how does it change the dynamics of how your product road mapping happens? Wherein from my understanding, while the business and the cost is being taken care of at a different center by a different team, or different people are thinking about it, product is still looked at as a team which is continuously trying to bring the solution and solve a certain problem in any way, and also in a scalable way. And probably then somebody else comes and says, hey, this is we need to also keep the cost low, or we need to have a certain economy of scale to optimize this. But in case you make cost as a part of the core strategy, how do you train your product teams, or what is it that your product teams have to, your product managers have to bring on board to continuously build around cost as a strategy?
So look, cost is a component of the strategy, is an important component of the strategy, right? and everything from what stack we're going to use, how effectively can we iterate and deliver upgrades to our customers. What happens to the overall cost of ownership of our service for our customers. How can the product team actually help define and mitigate some of that. Cost in India is also about distribution, right? So how do we distribute at the lowest cost? How do I everything from for us, everything from onboarding, right? I mean, the process starts there. How can we make sure that keeping the prudent KYC norms at the center of and focus of everything that we do? How can we make sure that our sales force, for example, in Haryana or Tamil Nadu, actually, in tier 2, tier 3 cities, onboard customers at the lowest cost with the highest KYC authentication. How do we deliver the lowest cost terminal, and how do we deliver the lowest cost service? Because at the end of the day, customers in India, despite everything, expect service, right? So unless it is thought through right at the beginning, you can't reverse or reduce cost of an iPhone once it's built, right? I mean, it is what it is.
No,
Uh,
that's. I think the cost of ownership for the customer, it's something which is which is something which I think all the companies learn very very late in life. I wish we knew about that at the very start of it. Mabel, on that, what lies at the core of your strategy? What's your product strategy? You're running a neo bank, and with a bank, all that comes to my head is that, okay, you're going to do everything from account opening to loans to whatnot. But from the product side, when you look at your own product, what lies at the core of the strategy, and as a second part of that, what lies at the core of India strategy?
So, Ashish, the way we obviously, like Sumit told and Manish said, as we start and as we start the company, it's always the founder that's led the strategy, and then somewhere down the line, you start listening to users, and there's a lot of research that happens on the target segment. And as you scale, you would have dedicated, research groups that are doing UX research, seeing how people are behaving with the interfaces that we build, do maybe testing, and then see how use what kind of demand the user is also asking for, and then strategy automatically gets tweaked basis user demand as well. So that is the kind of playbook that we use, at least in Open. First work on a premise that is guided by global standards or other, how this is being solved for similar audiences by other tools. Take to you put that to use to build the basic premise, and then put that out into action and see how the user is adopting to it, and then see what they would want, and then build on top of that.
So what has been the core of that bank? Like as a product, if I'm listening to you as a product person, I still wonder that if I had to replicate ICICI Bank or any bank in this new age, I don't have the intuition for this problem right now. Right, as I'm speaking, I don't really understand what is the banking problem. I will try to solve because I'm not that founder. But what is the core? What was at the core of your strategy with respect to ideating this product? So I'm just trying to understand what lies at the center, and then everything built around it.
See, bank and banking platforms have always existed, and people have been consuming it. What we started working on was, and there have always been accounting platforms, and there have always been payment gateways. But there was a ton of work that was happening in just reconciling these transactions, and that was causing a lot of efficiency loss for small business owners. And that is the problem that we started building around. We took the banking approach because ultimately it was the bank account where all the money was coming in and out, and building all the tools that a business uses around the bank account and build it all together on a single unified platform. That increased the efficiency of a business owner by, and the way we measured it, it was significantly to the tune of 3 to 4 hours every week being saved for small business owners. And because all of these recon and otherwise payable automation and all the other tasks got democratized and built together to one single platform, it led to a lot more efficiency, and that is what drove user adoption for us.
I'll make a statement here, and in case anybody wants to take a jab at that late, I mean, after that, please feel free. Maybe I am of the belief that there are countries where time is less or time is costly. In those countries, efficiency sells because you save somebody's time. Not only they give you money, they give you referrals, they give you good word. But in a country like India, where we are low on money and high on time, efficiency rarely sells. And I'm not talking about efficiency on like the ease of use. I'm talking about something which was already there, easy to use. Almost every traditional bank is on an app. You can do without going to the bank. Is there, and as Manish said, cost and price also is at the core of the strategy for India, which I completely agree with. What is it that you do at the product level, or does any part of your product strategy revolves around some tangible savings or saving of money instead of only time? Because efficiency is a slippery slope. We can keep building products saying that it is efficient for the user, but user also has to pay us for that efficiency. Then only we believe it's efficient.
I'll answer that question, Ashish, and I'll take two approaches. One, yes, cost does matter, and India is a very cost-centric market. So, price is definitely something that the user would always be conscious about. Uh, so typically, if you take a small business owner, he would be spending at the segment that we were catering to, where the not the extreme micro entrepreneurs who were who came much later onto the platform, but it was a mid segment. You can typically say a company that had say 7 or 8 employees or 10 employees. That was the kind of team sizes that were using our platform. They were anyway paying for accounting software. They were anyway paying for an expense management. They were anyway paying to the bank a lump sum of money for simple things as a bulk upload. So they were not the people who were not spending. They were the ones who were spending. And here you just got 3 or 4 of these things together on one single platform and at a cost that made really sense to switch to it. Right. So that is the efficiency that we've been able to drive up. Obviously now there are a lot more micro entrepreneurs who've been coming, and for them we do have a premium pay per use kind of model that we brought in when we started our monetization reels as well.
Got it. Awesome. Namit, to you, how do you, when you look at PayU, when you looked at PayU's business, and again, most of the payment gateways, the strategy at times, I wonder if it's a lower TDR or lower charge. Very few were able to actually, do better in terms of, hey, we are better at integration, or we will, we'll be faster, and now people are talking about there are going to be lesser number of drops in the, in fulfillment, etc. But in your eyes, what was lying at the core of the strategy, for both, the product as well as product for India? Namit, can Namit, why don't you kill your browser and probably restart? We'll, yeah, you come back and we'll continue. Mabel, Manish, would you like to take a jab at exactly what Mabel said when it comes to efficiency alone? Is efficiency one of the things at the part of the core? Do you see that changing in the market, and especially for the micro entrepreneurs, where they may not pay you for time, but they may become your customers because you're saving your time? That is what precisely I heard from Mabel. Wait, let me. I'm so
sorry, I'm back. Just tell me you can hear me now.
Perfect. Yes. I hear you. Namit, I'll come back to you, asking, or maybe why don't you continue? Manish, we'll hold with you.
Sorry, really sorry about that. My headphones had already started their Friday evening.
Sure.
Sorry, so I was just going to add the advantage at PayU was that we also have the benefit of a lot of expertise. So PayU right now is I think in its 10th year of operation in India, which means that while in the beginning it would largely have been founder led and intuition led, over time the companies had the benefit of also having a lot of information analytics and benefits of user research. So right now, if you look at the way products are built, or the way I looked at building for the micro entrepreneurs like Mabel mentioned, right? The idea here was very simple. So you are look at certain hypothesis basis the existing transactions or the existing behavior that's happening. This can be fairly large because there are already millions of people or millions of merchants on the platform. And then you look at how you can validate those hypotheses, right? So these are smaller experiments. You then go out and figure out, great, if for X number of people something like this works, can we quickly put something up, look at then iterating and then pushing that out, which has largely been the strategy. So while there is a core team which looks at innovations, which say this is something that will be useful maybe 2 years down the line, and we are laying the rails for the highest ability to support transactions per second in the country, and that's something that will be beneficial only 2 years down the line. The smaller experiments essentially on the side are able to then define your roadmap across a bunch of smaller initiatives which you iterate along the way. The advantage of that is twofold, right? One is, if you're making smaller experiments, you're also failing or winning in smaller bets. So the cost overall in terms of time and effort is limited, and you can drive it from there. If it works, then you double down and go right in. That was one.
On that note, will be and I mean, given that your mic was playing, was a disaster before, I will actually start the next question with you. Continuing from what you just said, there are so many playbooks available for product roadmap, product strategy across the world, and most of these playbooks, the most popular ones, come from Valley. And I see this massive issue where when you follow a product roadmap from Valley or built for US first or Western audience first, it rarely lands for India or for Indian market. In your context, I mean, you can also give a general one on that, but I would love anecdotal. We would love to have some anecdotal stuff on what is it at PayU, especially at the product side. You did not want to learn, or you had to not learn from PayPal's and Stripes of the world. If you looked at them as a competitor or as an inspiration, for your roadmap, what are the things which you had to really say that what, this is not going to work out, and I'm going to do my own version of what Flipkart did with COD. I'm going to do my own version of payment gateway product roadmap for India.
Sure. So I'll give you an example, towards the latter part of answering this question on what we actually did. But the first one that I'll try and answer is that, at least in the payments or the fintech platform space that you look at, while a pure play payment processing, most of the world may look at Stripe. If you actually look at the Indian infra for processing payments, we are actually faster. We're also cheaper, and we are also, I would say, so for example, real-time payments is not a dream. It exists. Transactions get settled here even at a merchant level in T+2, whereas Stripe is still kind of at T+4, which means that you're not actually looking at following a playbook and adapting from the West. You're saying, okay, here is a common infra that's available in the country. How do you then start building innovations around that? What that means is, if UPI, for example, is available, then it's not going to be just one company building on it. It's also going to be a Google Pay and a Phone Pay and an Amazon Pay. It's literally a level playing field. And it's not just you. Each one of these are then going to have to figure out, why will somebody continue to use UPI on me as compared to the 4 others who are also going cashbacks and who also have the distribution, right? So in terms of looking at innovations, we're actually at the other end. We're trying to say that if all of this is solved, what is the next barrier that we can look at? And I think that's, so the example that I come to here is, I think when we were looking at micro businesses, right? And micro businesses can be anybody from a single person to, a 10 to 20 people company. For them, the ability to accept payments, I would believe for a large segment already is, I'm not saying solved, but it's very easy. They're already digital. They understand how this works. Almost everybody has a UPI handle, right? Which means it's solved. So if somebody wants to pay them, the money is coming in, which means now they're going to start looking at, how do I solve other things, right? And which is the learning that we had. So we said, if payments are so simple and we've made it as good as a tap and money moves, what's the next thing that we can help our merchants do? Is it going to be a discovery? Is it going to be credit? Is it going to be, where do you find your customers? And can I now figure out, with the might of the information and analytics and the might that I have at my end, can I help make that simpler for you? And I think Sumit, Mabel are both in this space of trying to solve for something like that, because I believe the core is still largely solved. And I'm saying largely because there are still a bunch of things that need to be solved, but not for the very small merchants, right? Here we're looking at load balancing, saying, if I have 800 transactions per second, how do we solve for that? That's great. That is being solved, and that's exactly why PayU is great at doing that. But I'm talking for the smaller merchants. We're looking at what a larger ecosystem would look at to solve for them.
No, so I think on that, Manish, would you like to comment on that piece? Specifically, with respect to payments, what are the things which are so India centric in your strategy that it doesn't apply anywhere? You're on mute. You're on mute.
Sorry, let me give you an example of what happened when in our product roadmap, and I hope that answers the question, right? So when we launched, we launched with an MPOS, very simple concept. You can take a little terminal, pair it with your phone over Bluetooth, and you have an app on your phone, and you can effectively use your phone and this little swiper to accept card transactions from your customers, right? And within 6 months of launch, what we realized is that we had two extreme kind of customer feedback streams, right? One, customers were very comfortable, they loved it. The second one said that this just doesn't work. I mean, what is all this two device business? It's just too confusing, right? And we had to actually then spend a whole bunch of time and energy, engineering a whole new class of products that just didn't exist globally, which was an MPOS along with connectivity built in, right? So it could be used as a standalone MPOS, right, where you stick in a SIM card into the MPOS, and we had to create a whole new category. I'm talking way back in 2014, and so India, like I said, is not a straight road. It will always throw these curved balls at you. When we were launching our Smart POS terminal in 2017, the idea and concept was super simple, right? I mean, we were all terminals ran on what essentially dumb terminals, right? I mean, they didn't have an operating system. And what if we made a Smart POS, right? I mean, POS with say the Android operating system running on it, and a small merchant could just junk his PC and do everything from billing to running his WhatsApp for business to Zomato app, etc. Everything on that terminal, right? That's all he really needs. If you look at it, at a cash counter, what do you really need? You need to invoice your customers, collect money, run some business processes, and a Smart POS can actually do all of that. But guess what? While we've packaged all of this, spend a whole lot of time and energy, it's really hard convincing the customer to adopt that, right? And we now have to find other and different ways to engage those customers. And then of course we always have the likes of Mabel and Sumit crashing the party and making it even more simple for the same set of merchants to do different business activities using different tools, right? So India is quite complex, trying to solve all of these problems and managing growth at the same time. It's not as straightforward as it looks.
Yeah. On that note, Sumit, I'm sure that the explanation.
There are no playbooks in the valley to solve this.
Hey, sorry. Go on.
There are no playbooks in the valley to solve for this. So there's nothing you can do to follow that. I hope that answers my question.
Yep. Absolutely. So when you describe your app as somebody who's building an e-commerce store for the first time, I'm sure that you are when you're talking to people, you're being compared to the Shopify or you're the Shopify for India. And I'm not making a statement. This is more of a question. But does that mean that roadmap becomes Shopify for you? Because I believe that that can make life easier, at least on your side, wherein you can at least see through Shopify's roadmap and success for next couple of years, if not a decade. How do you look at product strategy which goes a little different from what you get from West, in case that applies to you, or you may say that it is right now world is getting leveled for real, and India is also kind of doing the same thing or accepting the same thing as West. What's the anecdote in your business? How the product what is that point from where you say that, hey, this is for India and this is something which we are going to do different and probably we'll have to discover. We have no parallel to that.
So there is no strict pattern matching with Shopify, because there are things like, for instance, Shopify makes huge chunk of money from the payments transaction, right? the commissions. If we start charging like 2% of the transaction, then I know that people are going to bounce off because like 0% MDR on UPI. So there has to be like different monetization strategy if we are trying to like monetize the transaction happening on the platform. So partly Shopify, partly Amazon. Now why Amazon is because like although like there are like millions of stores are getting created, most of the people are like digitizing for the first time. They don't even understand like basics of e-commerce. So for people like them, like it is going to be like difficult for them to like generate the sales. Now how do we like build something which can help them to generate the sale without building a marketplace? Because that's the first concern these people have, right? Like if you go to like for instance like if you go to a tier 1 city like Bangalore, like if you meet restaurants like hey like you start using Dukan, there's like 0% commission and everything. So they will reply you next line is like Zomato also said the same thing. Now they are like asking like 28% commission. So how do you like respond to all this situation? Like how do you like plan all this like product roadmap and everything that becomes like really challenging, which we are like still figuring out like what's the way ahead for
that just sounded like you were getting into the territory of restaurants. Okay, so you're not only crashing the party for Manish.
Ashish is crashing your party, Ashish.
Okay, thankfully this event is virtual.
Yeah.
But on that note, Sumit, does that mean, and if I say that in a crude way, does that mean that product strategy, as Manish pointed out, comes back to the cost or the price, right? Does Dukan become that 0% guy or no commissions guy or a freemium person, for the merchant, be it a retailer, be it a restaurant, and if that becomes a strategy, then does it really hamper the way you innovate the product from that point onwards? Because your customer suddenly loses so much value, or at least this is my view, right? That if a customer is only coming to you because you were 0% or you're no commission or you were free, then how do you innovate for that customer? That customer may not be valuing their own time. How do you solve for that, or how do you look at that? What is your lens which is different?
Right. So like whenever like somebody comes in, like for instance, like somebody who is like setting up the e-commerce store for the first time, once they understand, okay, like this is the basic of like setting up the e-commerce store, and like here is like how I get the orders and everything. The next step the guy is going to do is like how do I expand my reach, right? So there would be like different set of tools which are premium, which he wants to get. Like for instance, one tool could be whatever orders you got so far, there is one button with which you can broadcast one message to all of your customers. So that could be premium, which is going to get you like more orders. Then like their needs starts getting more and more sophisticated, right? Once you learn basics, then you learn like scaling. The third thing which merchant starts asking is like, hey, how do I like generate the GST invoices? How do I keep the track of like live inventory? So their needs are getting like more and more sophisticated, and by that time like they're already started making money, so they don't mind paying you.
But when the need gets specific, and that will bring me on to the next segment, which is your ideal customer profile. And
Right.
and I think for all the product entrepreneurs or product leaders or product practitioners listening, I will say that one of the things which really baffles me is that everybody talks about how to get their first customer, which first customer to build for. I think the nightmare is not your first customer. Nightmare is the 100th customer, because by the time 100th customer hits you, your ideal customer changes. Right? You discover different segments. You discover different use cases. You in fact discover how you believed your product would have been used, but there is some creative user who ends up using your product in a very, very different way or for a very different reason. What has been your journey so far, in terms of having multiple cohorts of these new, target profiles, new target customers? And can you give us an example of the, TG which you had to say no to, and the TG which you discovered, and you also discovered that not only they were great, they were really, growing in numbers, the growth hack?
So we wouldn't say like no to anybody. At the same time, like we are focusing on like multiple segments. For instance, the biggest funnel is like people who are like, as I told you, like who were like going on the internet for content consumption purpose before COVID, but now they don't have any choice, and they're just trying to learn like how exactly this whole e-commerce segment and everything works. Then the middle of the funnel would be like people who are like selling things on like India Mart, right? Like who already know like how exactly the lead generation and like internet works for the businesses. And on top of the funnel, like there are like like legacy brands. Like consider an example of like Bridgewasi Sweets, who already does like crores of rupees of revenue, but they don't have digital presence at all. and they are ready to pay you at this point of time, like right now, because they already have like all the resources to manage the whole catalog and like payments part and all sort of things. So at one point of time, like we are dealing with like all of these three TGs and like trying to cater all of them. Things become like really difficult when you start getting the like different users, right? For example, there is one guy who's trying to set up the fashion store versus somebody who is trying to sell the shoes. Now the way you add the size and prices, like in case of shoes, like the price gets changed based upon the size. In case of like t-shirts, it does not. So how do you build a generic platform which is like usable for like both of them? So that's where like the whole like things start getting difficult. And
that is a big mighty goal, man. We don't say no to anyone, and putting everyone in funnel. I understand why you are crashing everybody's party. Manish, who do you say no to?
So look, it's very hard to do that, and I think one of the key things as an entrepreneur you need to learn in India, in my mind, as far as the product is concerned, is you have to learn to say no, right? Because the smallest customer will want 5 features, which he thinks is super valuable. Your sales team will think another 3 things will help them sell better, and you in your mind you see the value doing something which you think will be very useful in India, right? Reality is none of these. Okay. Nothing really moves the needle, right? Reality is like I said, you have to learn to say no, believe in your product, build to solve the problem, and don't sway away from it, right? The moment you start doing, you start defocusing from solving the core problem that your product is supposed to solve. It's a Pandora's box you cannot close.
But Manish, does that? I mean, this is exactly what my question is. That right? But the thesis which any product starts with, and by the time you get your 100 or 1,000 or whatever that number, that critical mass number for each of us, can be, your core moves, or you end up experiencing that your core moved, right? Even though somewhere you still feel that the core is where I started. When that core moves, did you have to, and you talked about it, right? You talked about that there were 2 sets of users. One said this doesn't work, other said this is beautiful, we love it. So was there a time when you had to really choose the ideal customer profile or ICP, or where you had to say that, okay, this is exactly who our TG is, we are going to not only sell to them, but we are going to continuously build for them now?
Yes, we have to say no, right? And that's what I'm saying. We've had to make those decisions. Reality is that in the early days, as a young startup and an enthusiastic entrepreneur, you have no choice, or you're compelled to cater to anyone and everyone, right? But as the company matures, you need to understand and realize that that's the difference between a general practitioner and a neurosurgeon, right? I mean, at the end of the day, if the general practitioner tries to be, the neurosurgeon can never be, and will also lose his customers or his patients. And that is exactly what happens in the product game. So you need to realize who your TG is, who you're going after, what's the problem you're solving, and continue to stay true to that.
Mabel, I'm gonna hit you last on this one. Namit, do you want to take a jab at how does the ICP changed, and can you keep it as per the example? Did the ICP change, and did you stick to a certain ideal customer profile, or ended up saying no to the rest of them? And after that, I need to hit Mabel with the same question, and post that we'll take some very interesting questions from the audience.
Perfect. So I'm going to be very quick on this, right? 2 things. One thing we realize is that UPI is ubiquitous. People were not going to pay for a transaction. I'm talking about the really small businesses, which means if I went in there and I tried to convince them the value of paying for it, it was not going to happen. So the clear path here was to say, great, which means anybody who does less than 30 to 40 transactions a day, right, which is about a good 500 to 600 transactions a month, they will anyways be accepting this via all possible existing modes at free. If I go in there and try to show them value, whatever I do, I'm not going to be able to. So I'm okay letting that go. It's a very hard call, right? Because that's a very large segment. But you're okay to say that's fine right now at this point of time. That is not the segment I'm solving for. The one that I'm solving for is where they see value of the platform, they see value of what all comes with it, and I will go after those, I'm happy to let a large chunk of this go, which is one, right? That's in line with the example. The second one I quickly wanted to squeeze in was about where you said, how do you look at people and do you choose whether they pay, right? So are we optimizing for cost? One of the things that I wanted to kind of, bring here was when you're looking at cost, right now, the example that all of us are looking at is cost in terms of money, right? If you kind of just go slightly larger and you say, are people willing to pay? And if it's not going to be money upfront, what else are they willing to pay by? What is that unit, right? And I'll tell you what that means. So if you're not going to pay right now in terms of, I'll pay you 500 rupees per month for a solution like this, what else can you do to, one, show value for which they will pay with something else? What would that look like? So for us, what that looked like was great. You didn't pay for a monthly fee, but you did pay with giving us access to a bunch of data on your transactions, which could let us underwrite you for in an unsecured manner, which means that while you went to a bank, you were able to kind of pull out money at X, but here you were able to pull it out in a completely different way, right? So I'm saying the cost here is not in terms of money. It is looking at it in terms of if you're able to show value, are they willing to then give you access to something that you can monetize in a very different way?
Naveen, that is exactly why lending became a feature. So on that, Mabel, what do you believe is the at the core ICP while you are doing the bank and everything around it, who still stays on maybe both sides of the bell curve, who still stays your core customer and who is outside that curve?
See, anyone who's doing business of any size is definitely my customer. I don't think we have said no to any segment of users, but yeah, we've seen more adoption coming in from certain segments like manufacturing or traders, who have predominantly been users on our platform. Guys who've been into builders or construction companies, services segment. These are the ones who have been the primary adopters. But there are, of course, the secondary adopters for which there is a freemium model. There's a pay-per-use kind of model, and then, as Namit said, the access to the amount of transaction data that we get up to the tax filing data, and then using that to solution out better products for which they would pay, say for a loan, for that matter. Those are the things that make everyone relevant in some way or the other.
I think I really worry about data as a strategy, and this is less of a comment on you guys. It is more from my perspective. I wonder that data is the new oil, just that we don't know what to do with that oil, or we don't know who's going to buy that oil from us on a continuous basis. Whoever is able to find that, of course, is doing much better.
Yeah, I just want to add one thing, right? I think what goes missed and unsaid in India is small customers and large customers will pay for service, right? And while everyone's been trying to monetize various other things, I think what goes unmonetized in India is even the lowest of the low, in the pecking order expect service, and they will pay for it, right? So in India, I think if you're looking at really monetizing a product, the product needs to deliver a service. And that service, if it's at the right price, always wins and can be monetized.
Yeah, I think on absolutely agree with you, Manish. And this is one that was actually surprisingly my next question. That one thing which I see is that there is so much, and again I'm addressing probably all the listeners on the product side as well. This is one debate which I have with a lot of entrepreneurs, a lot of times where. There is so much gyan which is flowing around on product-led growth, build and they will come. SaaS has gone crazy with self-sign up, and that leads to don't have a sales team. But I think sales is not the problem we are discussing here. That leads to another problem, don't have a support team. And I'm actually baffled by how many people will come to me and say, oh, I don't want a very large support team. And I'm like, I don't know what is large. What does large mean to you? It can be different for you and me, but why are you not interested in the human chatting nowadays, or maybe having a phone call? A customer, small or big, will end up needing some sort of support from you. Is this always the product what do you guys feel? According to you, if technical support or any kind of product support is required on call, online by a human, is that product's problem, or is it a service, as Manish said? Is it a service? Is it a feature, or is it a bug? Is it a problem with the product, or is it something which you are doing on top of it and making it amazing? Sumit, you would want to take a jab at that?
It depends, right? Like you want to build products like WhatsApp, or like you want to build companies like IndiaMart where like 3,000, 4,000 people are there, right? So although like people are expecting service and everything like that is not scalable, right? Like if you start giving like services, especially like when you're like focusing on like huge audience, it's simply not going to work. Like there has to be something like acquiring all these users digital, making them like transact digital. I think that's not going to work, like especially when you want to work on the scale. Like services are not going to work. That's what I personally.
I'm just going to add to that, right? I think it's a small fine balance where, like Manish said, right, largely for India, what we've seen with small merchants is while they're happy with the do it yourself, they're even happier if you do it for me, right? So I will sit here, ये मेरा दुकान है, मैं खोलूंगा, but if you have somebody on the other side who says, sir, this is how we do it, or this is what we do, right, with like an assisted sort of an approach, we've seen that work. Again, I'm not recommending that as the way forward because it is definitely not scalable, right? Up to a certain extent you can, but do it for me definitely has worked. You have to then find a balance on how far do you go to kind of cater to that audience, and is that what you want to do? Because honestly, when you're looking at the number of SMBs that you want to digitize or you want to bring on, it has to be product led. You have to go out product first and then add maybe a smaller layer of service on top, and that's what I've seen as working.
Manish.
Yeah, I kind of echo Sumit's view that it depends on the product also, product and the industry that you're in, right? I mean, service cannot always be, service is not scalable, beyond a point. So that is definitely a bottleneck. But I was talking more from the perspective of what is monetizable in India over free products is actually service, right? I mean, that becomes a very easy way. It's not easy, but it is a proven and a viable path for monetization over free. And that's also what freemium actually is, right? At the end of the day, you experience a product and then I'm offering you an extension of my product as a service for which you pay. So it depends on what your industry and product is, but from the India context, there is a very tight coupling of at least what we do, right? I mean, you can look at lending, right? Even lending as a service, while everyone wants it to go digital, right? Fully digital, end to end, just by analyzing someone's UPI transactions, right? I mean, we've tried and we failed, right? Maybe we don't know how to do it. And finally, at the end of the day, what's really worked for us is using product and technology to lower cost and increase efficiency of processing the same loan, right? But saying that we're going to have this magical AI box that is going to be able to sit and figure out the problem in lending is intent to return capital, right? How is your product going to solve for that? I still don't know, right? And the service layer, which is basically I'm going to go there, figure it out, okay, by meeting the customer or meeting him virtually, right? I mean, it doesn't need to be necessary to meet him in person, but that is the service layer that both enhances your product and gives you a return.
So Manish, just to be clear, if the message at the end is clear, while you believe that product is the way to go, and it should not need thousands of people to really scale that, but at the same time you do believe that service component as a part of the product strategy is the way to go. Is that, am I hearing right? Okay.
Absolutely.
With you, all the banks, I just before this session, I got a call from my accountant that bank is trying to call you. Can you please pick up this call? And I said, for what? They said, because we have to approve a transaction. There is a NEFT going on and they want your approval on the call. In this kind of world, same question to you. How much do you believe that you're going to bring in a service component as a part of your product strategy, or is it going to be more reactive as a need, or is it already reactive as a need, or you're going full digital, no human intervention way?
I wouldn't say no human intervention altogether, but I tend to concur with what Namit said, because you can say I'm from PU, so I learned it there, and that is what I learned at Citrus and PU in building products, and that's what I've learned from my mentors as well. So for us as a strategy, go as much digital as possible, and then have a smaller service layer out there to support. Well, just to add to that, we still don't have a call support as a functionality. We've run successful 4 years with, and at a scale of 10 lakh SMEs, we still provide chat support to our users, and we've been able to drive better services to them, compared to what we would have done by keeping a huge call center at the scale that we would have that we are at.
Awesome, guys. I think we have 5 minutes to go. I'm going to pick one question. There is a question which I think Sumit already answered. If you want to really add anything to it, please do. I'll ask you, Mabel, first. This is from Arinjeet. He's asking to Mabel and Sumit, if you had an opportunity, or rather you already have an opportunity, to either double, quadruple down on one segment of identified users, and grow in that before you go to the adjacent ones, or you go all horizontal and build for everyone for a longer period. Which one? What strategy?
The answer to that question is mixed. You, at different stages of growth, you will require different kinds of strategies. What gets you to your first 5 lakh users is not what will help you reach your 10 lakh and 20 lakh and 50 lakh, right? So there would be, but my go-to strategy as a entrepreneur would be to first build horizontally for everyone, and then find a niche, and start putting dedicated teams for certain segments that have shown more retention on the platform.
Awesome. Sumit, you want to add anything to it?
That's pretty much it. Yeah.
Perfect. There is, Mayuri is asking, how difficult does it become to convert free users to paid subscribers, if at all? Any one of you? Sumit, of course, you're at the center of it.
No, we are not monetizing the platform, right? So I would ideally want somebody who is already doing some kind of.
Sumit does not even subscribe to the problem. All right. Anyone?
I'll take that question.
Yeah.
So Mayuri, that's something that we've done. We opened out our monetization rails much later. In fact, in the most recent 4 or 5 months, and we've definitely seen a good adoption for the paid versions of the product as well, and that we drove by showing significant value to the user to upgrade. So it is not a complete no that person will not upgrade if he's already been enjoying the platform for free. If you show the need and the hook is that strong enough, it is possible to upgrade the user.
Guys, thanks for a great session. I basically noted down a couple of stuff which actually stood out for me. Manish talking about while building product, making sure that the cost of ownership for the customer is very important metric. Also, the cost of distribution that product will lead to is extremely important, and I think these are two both sides of the puzzle, which should be a part of the product team's understanding, or the founder's understanding of the product. Also, Manish made a point that small customers as well as very large customers, they both pay for the service. So I think mediocrity is a curse, even in the customer segments. The middle ones are the crazy ones. Mabel talked about how your target segment continuously evolves, and one thing continuously leads to the other. But that is also where Mabel also ended up saying that I'm going to build for horizontal. I'm going to go broad, and then I'm going to pick up niches, and then put specific teams to grow larger in it. I think for all all the people thinking about neobanks, you can beat Mabel to the niches, directly, if not to horizontal. Sumit, we don't say no to anyone. That was the scariest and the most ambitious statement. But kudos to you, for that. Also, the funneled approach. I think that is very, very smart. The way you are looking at the market, that personally, stood out for me. And Namit made a very, very important point that the market you are building for, you have to effectuate in that market. I think product strategy, which is different, from West to India, largely depends on what India has infrastructure for what kind of services do we already have, what kind of things which are applying basis the regulatory framework, basis the government and the private sector, and looking at the infra, looking at MDR in case of payments, and also the ICP, where some Namit defined as people doing 500 plus transactions were not meaty enough, and probably people with much larger transactions could pay, while people with 500 transactions could actually pay with access to data. So all of you gentlemen and the lady, thanks a lot. Hope this session was great for all the listeners. I'm sure they can reach out to you on Twitter. Over to you, Kriti.
Thank you so much, Sumit, Manish, Mabel, Namit, and Ashik for joining us for this very, very insightful session. We've had some great takeaways. Now, it was great having you.
Hi guys, I just heard your session and I thought that it was wonderful. And I'm just going to quickly thank you and take it over from here. So thank you guys. I'll see you.
Thank you very much.
Okay.
Thank you.
All right. So now my turn. Wonderful. So what is it? All of you must have once or twice seen me popping up in different sessions, trying to nag you and annoy you into engaging and talking to us. Because I believe that we've created a platform where not only can you chat and network with whoever you want, but also interact with our sponsor Netcode and others such as Microsoft, A42, and more. So make sure that you check out post this session, you check out our feed, you check out the various agenda, the various things that we put up for you, and make sure that you call as many people and tell them what they're missing out on. Because the more people we help, the better it is, right? All right then, we'll meet again soon. Till then, I'm waiting to hear from you what you like so far, what you look forward to, and what has been the one thing that you've taken away from the sessions so far. Go to the feed, answer the question, who is a maker? Because all of you are sending us personal messages and I really want somebody to engage with us on the feed. I'm looking forward to you guys. See you later. Bye.